the Outdoor Drive Podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Outdoor Drive Podcast. This is episode 151, and we're back, man. This is your boy East Coast Trev, and
this is Steve.
What's up, Steve?
I'm just enjoying this Bacardi 151, you know?
We're on the 151, man. It's one after 150, and one before 152. If you guys don't know, I'm just kidding, just messing around.
You got to listen back like the last 40 episodes to understand.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I'm not really good at any language. I'm not good at English. I'm not good at Spanish. I'm not good at French. I just kind of like jibber jabber. It's not even
fisherman.
Like sequential. Yeah. I don't even think that's an excuse. I think everyone, Captain Seth seems to think it's because I'm from Coventry, I guess. So that's like the hillbilliness of, I guess, whatever. Stupid. Yeah, there we go, rambling again. But
I'm just letting you go.
Yeah, well, that's never good. Don't do that. Before it gets all kind of crazy and chopped up, if you guys haven't gotten your tickets yet for Huntstock, you guys might want to do so. Make sure you use the promo code Outdoor Drive. You're going to miss out on one of the greatest opportunities, the start of something very good here in New England. I mean, there's no excuses why I can't be there. Steven's driving all the way from Virginia to be here, so there's no excuses. You can definitely come here.
I'm going to be disappointed if I'm the person that drives the farthest to get to this.
You're not. So, well, I don't think so, but who knows?
All right.
But hey, dude, it wouldn't be the first time you've drove the farthest. Well, I normally drive the farthest.
Yeah, it's usually you. You usually get me by about 6 hours.
It's okay. But so you guys don't want to miss out. First off, we're going to be giving away so many prizes, so many things in our booth.
Hands down the biggest amount of giveaways we have ever done.
I mean, I'll just rip through them real quick. I mean, Latitude Saddle, we're giving away a Classic 2. It's already in my hands. That's going there. Zeus Broadheads. Nor'easter Game Call is giving away a whole entire line. I think there's going to be a Jurassic series, if not an Evo series.
This is an entire line. Every call he makes for us.
Just about. I mean, we'll have our custom crow call will be there because that's a new thing that's coming out. Wink, wink. That's a new thing we're working on. We'll have mouth calls, a ton of them to give away. We have also
the turkey tube call.
The turkey tube call. Yeah. No one's even seen that thing yet. So that's a new thing. There's just a pile of stuff from Nor'easter Game Calls. We have Huntworth is giving away a top, a bottom, and a hat, I believe. So like $150 value there. There's going to be what else? We have Latitude, Nor'easter Game Calls. Captain Seth is giving away $675 fishing trip. Oh yeah, that's right. I did say that. $675 5-hour fishing trip for 6 people on the Otter with me. So that will be kind of cool. Not that that's a bonus that it's with me, but I just get stuck on the boat with you. So
he's got to clean your fish. So take advantage of this.
So we have a 5-hour charter there. We have Bow Fishing Magazine is going to send up some stuff. Vital Grounds is sending up a ton of stuff to give away. I mean, it's literally from just about everybody is sending us up something.
Everybody we work with or sponsored by is sending us giveaways.
It's Rack Bracket is sending up some stuff also. This is not their months to sponsor the podcast, but I did reach out to them. So Trevor and Scott decided that they were going to give away some stuff here at Huntstock also. There's just a pile of stuff. We have a ton of merch. We've been working on hats. These are exclusively owned for Huntstock to release there. Whatever doesn't get sold, then we'll go on and sell it out, after. We have specialized stickers that are only going to be released at Huntstock. So those are going to start there. And then we'll sell them after that. But a lot of stuff is going to be only secludedly. Is that right?
No, but
okay. Would you understand?
You got me confused now. Exclusively.
Yeah. Exclusively sold at Huntstock and then released after that. So if you guys are in the area, go and do it. It's not that expensive, and you can just be there. Just go and hang out. Stop by the booth. Maybe we'll podcast with you. We're going to be podcasting live the whole entire time that we're there. Not even that, but Saturday afternoon, I think like 1 to 2 or 1:45 to 2:45, we're going to be on the main stage. We're going to do a live podcast there. I mean, it's just a ton of great stuff. They're giving away just a pile of stuff. So if you guys haven't heard about Huntstock, get back to 150, check that thing out, and see what Huntstock's all about. I'll stop rambling, but you definitely want to go and get your tickets and use the promo code Outdoor Drive. So
Does that count as like the sponsor clip?
I guess we're gonna have to. I mean, if it doesn't,
Because I mean, we covered everybody and what they're doing.
I agreed. That, I mean, they're all of our sponsors. So I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah, I think that counts.
No, it does, man, and it's we can't thank those guys enough, man, because they're the ones that make this thing possible. I mean, if it wasn't for them and then the supporters that listen to us every single week, I mean, we can't thank you enough. I mean, we see you guys, chiming in on our Facebook group, the Outdoor Drive, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. I mean, we can't thank you guys enough. If you're not on one of those platforms, you haven't subscribed or checked us out, make sure you go and you check us out there. There's always something new coming from somebody, whether it's me or Steven putting something on either YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram. There's always something going on. And we're trying to push forward and do new things that we haven't done in the past and just kind of grow. And it's just, we can't thank you guys enough for everything that you guys do for us every single week. I mean, it's definitely, we really appreciate it. And if you guys are on iTunes, please leave us a 5-star review. That helps us out tremendously in the iTunes world. And if you guys aren't on the YouTube, subscribe to YouTube. We are doing, like I said, a pile of giveaways. And maybe if you subscribe, you might get checked into that too. We never know. It's always a possibility.
There'll be some live action going on all the different platforms throughout the entire show.
How is there not going to be?
So you guys stay tuned because we may do exclusive interviews for the different media platforms as we're there.
I mean, how can it not be, right? We're going to have a lot of podcasts coming from Hunt Stock because we have 3 days of doing absolutely nothing but podcasting. So what else are we supposed to do, right? I mean, they can be heard live there, but we can also exclusively send them out for you guys. So we can't thank you guys enough, man. And we're excited about this podcast, something a little bit different. We haven't done a product podcast in quite some time. And these guys are just a little bit different. It's a little bit different. It's a different product, something that, I mean, I'm still mind blown about it, to be honest with you. I mean, it's something I've never seen before and something you've probably not seen before. And it might be a good idea if you're listening to an audio to scan through it on YouTube and check it out. There's a little bit of tidbits and some different stuff on there. It might not be up right away, but I don't know. Are you even putting it on YouTube?
Yeah, it'll be on YouTube. This one will be full video because to fully understand what they're talking about, you've got to see it.
It was jibber jabbering again. And I just wanted to make sure that it was on YouTube before I sent everybody over there.
Yeah.
So, but it's something you need to definitely check out on YouTube for you guys. And like we had talked about, it's more of a hunting implement than it is a real precise target thing. So it's pretty cool. So
yeah, if you like reflex shooting, this is think reflex shooting for your bow.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's really the way to just kind of picture this whole conversation. If you like reflex target shooting, that turns your bow into a reflex target sight. So
well, without further ado, man, let's go check them out. All right, we're back on the phone with the guys from ARD. How are you guys?
Good.
How's the evening going for you?
Pretty good.
Going well.
Yeah.
I hope it's better than the storms we're getting here. If I cut out, it's because the power goes out.
This is the same here. It's getting a little dark here. The wind is kicking up.
I just sent it all up the coast to you, so I apologize.
Well, hopefully they're not in a place where there's storms, so we'll worry about them.
It was a little
here.
rainy here yesterday, so you probably got some of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, why don't we get this thing underway? Why don't you guys introduce yourself, where you're from, and who you are and what you do?
My name's Tim Zelenka, and we live in just the western side of Michigan, little town, Grand Haven. This is my daughter, Megan.
Hi.
And yeah, we make the adjustable red dot.
So what exactly is it? So everyone's kind of, it's a little bit different than anything you've ever seen before. What exactly is it, and what is it? What is kind of the purpose of it?
So basically, we've shot a red dot on our bows for 30 years. And it was just like this, where we use this tube style red dot but it was always fixed where if we sighted in at 20 yards, that's we were stuck with. But what we really did was I don't have a knob on this just because to show you some things, but is this actual bracket that moves up and down.
Gotcha.
That's what makes it, adjustable for yardage. But the beauty of a red dot is if you know anything about a red dot, the only way to see that dot is look straight through the sight.
Right.
And so like if a lot of people will put it on a turkey gun or a gun for a kid because he doesn't have to try to line up front sight, back sight. When you can see the dot in the center, you're doing everything right.
Absolutely.
And it works just like that on a bow.
And the upper side to a red dot is when it's on the target, it's brighter than when it is floating. So, you're there.
Exactly. So obviously there's enough things we can mess up with a bow, but, it definitely, takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, especially for somebody that, doesn't have time to go shoot 100 arrows, a night or something and deal with all the peep sight issue.
So how did it even come about that you were shooting a red dot on a bow and arrow? Like, where did that even come in your mind that you thought about shooting a red dot? I've never really even honestly heard about it other than talking with you in the past week, but where did this all come from in even putting a red dot on a bow and arrow?
So it actually stems way back. Claude Pollington, who was I guess take that out of the way, but he owned Oneida Bows when it came out of New York and they moved it to Marion, Michigan. And he was the one that, really started that and made it work, well. And so we've kind of came off of that same design, but we made it adjustable. Other people have tried to do something like what he did, but they didn't make it robust and they tried to overthink it. And so we just started doing it probably since the late 80s, 1990, so right about in there. And once you start shooting it, you're like, it shows you everything you're doing right or wrong. But so it's nothing new to us.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty new to the community.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
Well, the thing that it shows really well is torque, because if you're holding the bow and you move your hand this way, the dot's going to move left or right. It's not going to be in the center. So if you're torquing the bow, you're going to know. And it tells you that really easily, which is very helpful.
Well, that's where most people are screwing up anyways. So live backfeed.
Well, the other thing with that is that you don't have to have these other anchor point tools. Like, you won't need to have, the kisser button or the nose button or so on and so forth. And with this, so you actually remove the peep sight itself also?
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's just the sight. So what exactly, like, is you guys make the bracket. So that makes it so that it's out to the different yardages other than just being locked in at the 20-yard range?
Yes. Correct.
This is a little different bracket than I showed you on the other one. This is one that we kind of made for shooting tack because it can do a couple little things different. But this one has the knob on it. So this is what we make is this bracket. And so when you look at it, you're like, oh, it's just like a single pin slider. But one of the biggest things why trying to make an adjustable mount for red dot has failed is they didn't have this dovetail on an arc. I don't know if you can see it very well.
Yeah.
But as this moves up and down, it actually rotates. So if you can figure when you hold your arm straight out in front of you, this moves just like your body is the center of a circle.
Correct.
If that dot never comes off your eye, whether we're here or here, it's always in the same spot.
No, that makes great sense.
If it was going like straight up and down like this, you'd have to like continually move your head to see through it, but that angle keeps it
right.
line.
So much like on a shotgun, if you bring your head up, dot disappears. Bring it down. Only it's in reverse. You're
And
bringing
that
the
would-
skills
that would-
off.
That's what would happen if we just moved it straight up and down. Same
Right.
thing.
No, that makes perfect sense.
So if you put just like you say, you put a little red dot on a shotgun and go duck hunting or skeet shooting or whatever, it instantly tells you if your head's too, we didn't have our head on the stock and I missed.
Right.
This is the same way. Our anchor point's too high, too low. The dot's either too high or too low, or we just don't see it.
That's actually, I could see it as a great training tool all around, both for the bow and for firearms, because in this one, it forces you to put the dot in the center. And when a lot of people shoot red dot, they don't really get that concept. They go, okay, I can see the dot, it's on it. That works for rifles at range, but not up close.
Yeah. And once you kind of develop that muscle memory, it's just, you're there every time. People say, well, you just don't have a constant anchor where we're string touching our nose and we're doing things.
Right.
Like we do. We just center the dot. It's
Right.
like a competition pistol guy that just sits in his house all day and just pulls the pistol up. He wants to get that in the dot and make that so repeatable. That's what happens. What we do after we start shooting a while, like, oh, the dot's just there. And we're not thinking about those other things where we have front sight, back sight. We're just watch the target. When we draw back, the dot's there.
Right.
So with this bracket, it's adjustable and it's adjustable to yardage. What is the yardage that it's available to do with the bracket that you have?
So usually we'll sight in at 20 yards because in hunting situations, and at the bottom click, if you're doing a hunting setup, 500 grain arrow or something like that, you're going to get out to 60, 65 yards. For Midwest hunting, more than adequate.
Absolutely.
We shot tack with that bracket that we had on that bow. And then instead of sighting in at 20, we'd sight in at 40. Now we can get out to 100.
Gives you that difference in yardage.
We just made a couple things different with this bracket, and we're going to tweak a couple things. We were really just testing it where we can change. What we do is when we sight it in, we never touch the turrets up here except for our windage. So when we want to shoot, if we're going to shoot a little higher, a little lower, like at 20 yards, we shot low, we'd actually move the front of the sight down, just like you would with a pin. We would change it. And so with this little stop here, we're able to make that our 20. And let's say for this one, I can give it 12 clicks. Now I'm dead on at 50 and I can go out from there. But if I want to go back up to my 20, I just click it back to the stop.
So it's kind of like gears on a bike. So you'll have your first gear and then you have 18 clicks right here. And then you can move the front. You'll have your second gear. You have 18 more clicks and you just kind of like sight in using that. But the clicks aren't definitive. Like one click isn't 5 yards. Like you'll have to go to each distance and shoot it and try it out and get click numbers because every person's going to be different with
what you get.
You're pulling and
your flight speed, your arrow weights, all the conundrum that is sighting in a bow.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's actually a really cool idea. And and that's one of the questions I was going to ask, like what is the yardage in each click that goes down? Because you have a little bit of a mechanism where it goes down and there's actually like ball bearings or a bump that goes down every single click that goes through.
Yeah. I want to take this. This is the bracket without the knob on it. And I'll pull it apart. So this is the base and this is what mounts to your bow.
Okay.
And you can see there's these 4 stainless detents in here and they move up and down on these little machined grooves. So that's what's giving us those clicks. And the reason we need that, rather than just like a slider where we have some type of a little detent, we have to loosen a cam lock or a set screw or something.
Yeah.
We don't want to have to do that in a hunting situation. We just want to go, oh, I need 2 clicks, click, click, and we're done. But
nice.
So you don't have to, like on some of the say Access or HHA or whatever, you'd have to loosen it up, the set screw,
retaining screw.
Yeah.
Then you can roll. Then you have to lock it again.
yeah, all we do is you can just 1 click. So we're sighted in at 20, depending what your setup is. Maybe, I need to get to 30. 2 clicks. So you can really just feel it because those 4 detents go in and out of those grooves. It's not something, am I at 27? Or you can just keep watching a deer, let's say, and reach up 2 clicks.
And I think one of the pluses to having a red dot over a regular sight is that your concentration is right where it needs to be. Like I know, like when I was a kid and I was hunting, like say turkeys or whatever, instead of having a single dot, I would use a scope or a red dot to keep my mind on just what I'm going to shoot, so that my focus isn't out to the outside. I'm watching and I'm on and I'm concentrating, and then that's that. Like with using a housing for archery, like on a regular like single pin or something, I have a wide view, so I can now see all the movement. And like someone like me, I get very distracted very easily. Like
little bit.
If something comes, then I know like, so having a sight, it just narrow minds you to that one thing, and your concentration is right where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And after a while, it's not really like we're looking through this tube. Because we want to shoot with both eyes open. That's even, better. But you still see the dot, you still see the housing, but we're really focused on the target. But it all kind of comes together.
I think one thing that we practice a lot when we're shooting, especially when we were practicing for tack, was looking at your target, pulling your bow up into your vision, and then the dot just becomes part of what you were already looking at. So you're not going from peep to pin to target. You're looking at your target. The dot just comes into your vision of the target. So you never have to like take your eyes off of anything.
Right. Yeah. And that's adding in that, if you use proper technique when you draw your bow, you're on target as you're drawing and you're getting that smooth follow through. So as soon as you lock in, you're on anchor and you're ready.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Yeah. And you're taking some of those the gun things that we've all learned and bringing them over to archery. It's kind of mind blowing, honestly, to me, because like wherever that pin is where the arrow goes. Like you would think that it would change, like, like a gun would be, where you point and wherever that pin is or that red dot is, then it's on. But with a bow, you would think that it would be different. Like if, I don't know, it's still kind of mind blowing to me, honestly, that you can use a red dot on archery tackle.
Yeah. Short of having like a reflex style that's going to cost you $2,000.
Probably the biggest misnomer or the thing that it becomes so foreign is because that this is to the right of our string.
Mm-hmm.
So be like, how can we have this to the right of the string, to the right of the arrow, and it still work? Because everyone is so used to having your pin and your peep kind of
you're trying to align them
on the string, and it doesn't matter. We could take a guy that is blind in his right eye and only has a left eye and move it over here and put it in front of his right eye,
and it'll still shoot right.
It still shoots because we're still looking at the target. So it really becomes very intuitive, where just like you were instinct shooting, we always just looking at the target, and we're not really concerned about this so much.
Well, and a good argument against that argument is if they're worried about it, if you look back at, say, like the Mosin Nagant, some of the classic sharpshooter firearms, the scopes were all offset. They weren't centered down the barrel for that exact same reason.
Yeah, the older, whatever, 30-30s and stuff. So you could the hammer and stuff, they were offset.
Yeah, I mean, half of them just because you couldn't rack the bolt back. It was in the way. But, I mean, it's the same theory. Once it's set to your sight on there, your parallax doesn't change. It's still up and down and lined up no matter how. So that's just how you sighting in.
We offer different because one person might be shooting like a Matthews V3 with a big thick riser. And then someone else may have a much older bow with a really thin riser. But we really want to put that sight in the same spot. It's in relationship to your string on every bow. So we make different ring lengths to accommodate that. And that was something that in the past, a lot of the sites didn't do, and they were trying to line up that red dot with your string. And that goes against everything, because now we're trying to we got the string in the way, we're trying to look at the red dot, and it kind of just doesn't work. But so we'll have everybody, some people like to have that dot really close to the string, and then the other guys want to push it over a little bit further.
Makes sense.
That's crazy. It's still mind blowing to me though. Honestly,
Trev
like
can't get his mind around
no,
it.
I cannot grasp it. Like it's like
Trev is he
mind-blowing.
needs to see it and play with it and shoot
Yeah.
it to
You
understand.
say that, and we'll go to shows, and we always have a trailer and stuff so people can shoot into it. And they have watched the videos or seen an ad, and I can watch you talk about it. I can see your stuff, but until I had it in my hand and shot it, this isn't what I thought it was.
Mhm.
And that's, probably something you kind of struggle with, or we do, going back, and people say, oh, they tried that back in the 90s. And I'm like, yeah,
It's not quite the same.
they just didn't have it quite right. And so we made some improvements on it. And probably our biggest thing was, because we've done it so long, we know how to teach people to say, this isn't a pin sight and a peep. It's a red dot. And this is how you use a red dot on a bow, and why it is a little bit different.
So what are some of those changes from the 90s to now that you do differently than what they had tried to do in the past?
Well, with the Pollington system, which was just the same exact thing, just fixed. We couldn't move it up and down. That is very similar, but there was some sites, I think a Bracklin, I think True Glow tried one.
Right. I remember that.
A few other people, but they were very complex. We're using our windage to shoot left and right, but they didn't have the ability to take that ring and put that red dot in the same position in relationship to the string on every single bow. So it worked okay for one guy. The next guy would try it. He goes, oh, my bow is different. So I can't see the dot. Or they tried to make some adjustments in here of making the whole sight shift left and right to make it shoot if you were shooting a little bit left. Well, this is like, it'd be 1,000, 2,000. If this thing is off from your riser and not square, it's just, you're not going to see the dot.
Right.
So making it very robust is really key.
So as far as setup goes, when you get one of these, so say that I was to order one today and I get it in, what are the steps and procedures that I have to go through to get this thing all sighted in and dialed into my bow?
Well, we do have some good videos about that. So
Yeah.
We just made some new ones. So thanks.
Yeah.
on our YouTube page. So that's good. But really, like I say, you're going to get this, this bracket, and you'll mount this to your bow, and where we mount it up and down, and we just want to mount it typically as low as we can. So when we're at this lowest position, we have clearance from our arrow. And
Gotcha.
But if we like our anchor point a little higher on our face, then we mount the bracket a little bit lower. And vice versa. If we want our anchor point lower, then we just mount the bracket a little higher. So that's fairly simple. We get that on, we put the mount back together. There's a couple little things as far as, putting our rings on, so we don't want our sight twisted one way or the other. But once we get it set up and it's on the bow like this, it's almost dead on. It's very little, maybe a couple. This is our windage, we turn it left or right. But when you draw the bow back and if the dot is there, it doesn't take a whole bunch, just a few clicks. You could have a situation where, someone's bow isn't tuned properly, and at full draw, your string is not centered of the riser.
That's what I was going to ask next is, do you ever run into torquing issues like the riser? If you can either have the riser, is it a characteristic of the riser that's actually twisted, right? Or
is it our cams? Are they shifted one way or the other? We don't see it a whole lot in some newer bows because I think the strings are so much better but what happens if you can picture your string being off to the right, so it would be over here at full draw, the sight is parallel to the riser, Now this position from the center of your riser to your string is on an angle.
Right.
Now you can't see the dot because this works because everything is straight. So you either fix your bow and get the string straight, or we would put a shim between this base and the bow, maybe 10 thousandths, 15 thousandths,
Right.
to change this angle to match the angle of your string. And it's minor. And so when I read stuff where guys will go, I've got my sight pushed over all the way to the right and it still can't, or my rest.
In that situation, if you're not twisting the tube, it's not going to change anything.
It's not moving, so, and I'm like, you probably have an issue up here with your cams or your risers twisting. With a red dot, it tells us immediately. So if we were sighted all in and we did something weird, we hit our bow, we dropped, we did something, and the next time we drew the bow back and we go, can't see the dot. You moved something, So if
Something's not right.
If your bow gets out of whack, the dot just won't be there anymore. Does that happen very much? No, this thing is tough. We could carry this by the sight. We could take the sight off, throw it, bolt it back on. That's not going to change. Something will happen to your bow before you mess this up.
So with your bracket, so you guys make the bracket, but the red dot comes from obviously a different company. What is some of the red dots that work with that bracket? Is it every an end all be all? Is it one size fits all?
So we have a couple different options. We use mostly ultra dots. We have a lot of them right here, which are just like the competition pistol scopes. So those are all the tube style ones that get mounted on these rings like this. But we also have a Picatinny rail version.
Okay.
So you can mount any red dot on it. And as long as it's a rounded shape red dot, we have a Venom or like a Vortex Venom or something, which is kind of like this. It's like
your dome shape.
Your dome shape, and it's harder to center a dot in that.
It's easy. You just your brain knows where the center of something round is.
Right.
It's not something you have to think about. So if you have a more of a reflex style that's maybe it's a little octagon or something and then flat on the bottom.
Right.
We start to think, where's center? Now you can, as soon as you get your muscle memory, you'd know, but the target acquisition and stuff is a little bit slower. But I just grabbed a rail. So we have some little bit different posts that we attach this, but if you already had a red dot, this just sits probably about right here. And then you just put your red dot on it.
So you can do it with just about anyone.
Yeah, if we just don't want a red dot where if you're a right-hander, that the on-off is between the riser and the red dot. It's a little cumbersome to get at. So, and we want a red dot that sits really low on the rail, because if this sits here and we have a red dot with a really high mount, like for an AR,
right,
and we end up having to mount this lower and it doesn't work well. But there's some that work perfectly fine. I think the biggest thing is some guys want a green dot. Maybe they have astigmatism or something, and so there's a couple options out there, for a green dot.
Oh, that's awesome. Up till now, I didn't realize it was adaptable to that extent.
Yeah. What we have done, I don't know if you want to grab a post, I can show them, but so this is what the style we used. And then we started getting all kinds of questions where, can we stick the rail on? So in our CAD stuff, because we knew this is going to sit lower and we're going to mount a red dot on top of this to sit normal, just like it would on a rifle. So then we make these posts that sit like this.
Okay.
So they end up dropping that down just a little bit, but we did it on a CAD. So once you set the average red dot on, it's going to line up in the exact same spot as this.
Perfect.
The same thing, we have different, short, medium, and long, different length posts to put that red dot in the same position on every bow, or not in relationship to the string anyway.
So is there any benefits, like you just said green, red? Is there a brightness that's better than another? Like what is kind of like, so for somebody that's new to it, like what are you looking to try and do and the best thing for them?
So the ultra dots have different dot sizes. So there's like a 2, 4, 6 MOA. So like the size of the dot. And then there's also different reticles based. That's just kind of preference on what you want to look at. And then there's 11 different brightness settings. So like in low light conditions, you can really turn the brightness down, and then it won't get too bright and fuzzy when you're looking at it.
I think that's probably a lot of guys like, oh, it's going to be too bright, and then I'm not going to see in low light. I mean, you can turn that on a 2 MOA dot, just for people that may not understand what MOA and as far as the dot. So a 2 MOA dot means at 100 yards, that dot is going to cover up 2 inches of the target. So at 50 yards, it's going to cover up 1 inch. And at 20 yards, that dot is going to cover up a 1/2 inch on your target.
Right.
So that dot it's pretty small. And some people, like, for years, we use the 3 or a 4, and it's pretty minute, especially at the distances we usually shoot at. The mesh set 2, you can have a dot with a crosshair or a dot with a circle. But in the winter, like when I know I'm going to hunt in Michigan anyway, there's snow on the ground. Those deer aren't going to come out till just the last light. Sometimes I'll leave my light on for a couple weeks, drain that battery a little bit, make that dot. So maybe in bright sunlight, I can hardly see it because I've drained it down.
Mm-hmm.
But I want it to be so tiny in that, really dusk situations that I can see really well. But with both eyes open, we always see the target with one eye and the dot with the other, and it just kind of comes together.
Right. And that's something that, especially, I'm going to say inexperienced as the word, red dot shooters don't understand, because they've never either been taught or have had the experience, is when they go out, they'll crank that dot up. And like you said, it gets fuzzy when you get half power or higher. So you tend to not like them. But the lower you go with that light, and this is something that we did and pounded in through our guys in the military, was run that thing low.
Yeah. Because
when you get it on the target, it's going to light right up.
And with the ultra dots especially, and there's a lot of great red dots out there, you can spend $25 on and you're going to get a $25 red dot.
Exactly.
And as far as, ultra dots aren't crazy expensive as far as red dots go, but they're competition pistol red dots. Almost exclusively, they're put on for, people shoot on their Olympic stuff. But that dot is so nice. It's so crisp versus when you go to a lower quality red dot, even though it's a 2 MOA or 3, it still kind of looks like a pumpkin. It could look starry. These things are so crisp, the quality of the glass. So.
Also, like right when you take these out of the box and install it, and then you go to pull your bow back, it's gonna be right in the center, which is really nice. With a less expensive red dot, you're gonna have to do some adjusting most of the time.
Right.
These, you can take them out of the box, put them on your bow, and it's gonna be pretty much in the center.
Yeah.
So let's get down to the brass tacks of it, honestly. So you have the elite package. What comes in an elite package, and what is the price point on something like this, so these guys know what's in store for them?
Let me grab our price sheet too, just so we can.
So this would be, of course, I don't have the knob on here because I was gonna maybe take it off. I didn't want it on, but so this is a match dot 2 with the different settings and as far as all the different reticles. You get everything you see here. We do have a little, I don't want to grab a quiver mount, but if you want to go ahead, you can.
It'll come in a package like this. You'll get the mount, which is the same one that's on here, minus the knob on this one, which is just our V4 mount. The other one that's on this bow is our V5, which we're still testing. You'll get a quiver mount and a set of rings to attach your scope. And then the price point for the elite package with an ultra dot scope, it's going to be $539. With a match dot, it'll be $565. And then with a match dot 2, it'll be $590. And so the elite package, those are all ultra dot scopes that come with that.
Hell, I look back at some of my pin sights and I'm regretting it now.
Yeah, right. I mean,
if you had a red dot and you just want the mount and the rail,
Oh,
I think it's like $395.
$395. Yeah, if you have your own red dot already and you just want this mount and then the rail and the posts, so you're not buying a red dot with it, you just want the system to put it on there, it's going to be $395.
Awesome.
I'll jump back because we didn't really talk about. So a lot of guys just mount their quiver on their bow now, but if you wanted to mount it here, it gets too close to the knob. So we include this little mount. Now you can your quiver mount here, you can put it on this side or you can put it on that side. What we're working on right now is we went out and bought basically everyone's quiver. And our guys are going to design this mount so it will fit everyone's quiver without using their quiver mount.
Universal adapter. I like it.
And we're going to try to make it work for the tight spot also, which uses the
Right.
bond thing. So this is fine. But then we're just going, all right, then you got to use this bracket, then put your bracket on this and then put it on. So we try to simplify that, just a little bit.
Thinking ahead. Because you know what you run into with people. They're just like, oh no, how am I going to put my quiver on now? They normally have the two holes.
Yeah.
Right.
And it definitely helps them out for sure. So what do you find that's some of the benefits to having a red dot over a regular sight?
I want to say your target acquisition is number one. That's why we say a red dot is the best hunting sight made, because our target acquisition is so fast. We never take our eyes off it. We don't have to line up our peep with our sight housing and do all this stuff. We're just looking at the target and centering the dot. For guys that are, 50 to 70, where now we have to wear reading glasses all the time, when in their pin sight was fuzzy, the red dot, all that goes away.
I think that's one of the things that, as we start to get older, right? Like my father and so on and so forth, like he'll have a magnifier in his peep. Or he went to a crossbow now because he couldn't shoot a bow anymore. So that keeps those traditionalists back in their bows, because like my father is like upset that he can't shoot a compound bow anymore because he can't see. Like he can have the peep, but he can't have the pin, or vice versa. So something like that would definitely help some of those guys that want to stay in their bow and not go to a crossbow or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but.
Yeah, we've had a ton of people that wanted that. And I've even had some guys they bought the system and they're going to put it on their PSE Nova. I'm like, I said, that bow is like 25 years old. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this guy's just ecstatic that he goes, I just haven't been able to shoot anymore because I can't see the pin. And it took care of it.
So that's a big help.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I know about 5 guys this could help, and they're our age.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I totally agree. Hey, Tim, you have a deer behind you. I want to hear about that deer, because that's one I definitely want to hear about for sure. That thing's an absolute monster.
Yeah, you can go see I had a self video of this thing, and it's on our YouTube page, but this is a Kansas deer I shot last year. I think,
Beautiful.
It scored 198. I mean, that's just measuring everything. I think if you take all the deductions, it's like 173.
Yeah, well, nets are for fish.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, big, heavy deer. Shot it out over a decoy in Kansas. So
With a red dot.
Yes.
With a red dot. Yeah, of course, nothing else. Megan's got one on the website too. If you can watch that she shot in Kansas a few years ago.
Outstanding. Yeah, we'll have to go check those out.
Yeah, that's insane. So how did that all happen? Like, take us through that hunt. I want to hear about that, because that thing is an absolute monster.
Well, so in Kansas, we could go, we could hunt really close to where our house is, or we might have to go 30 miles to get to us. And, some days we might have 15 different spots to choose from, and we've got 6 guys there. And then the wind changes and you're trying to scrounge up, where do I go? So I end up going to a spot that, it's always a decent spot. And I get there and there's a combine in the field right behind me. And like, probably shouldn't come to this spot tonight. But anyway, so it ended up being the wind's blowing in, north wind, Kansas, everything's cold. And I just kind of look out and I see these antlers pop up just behind this little cedar tree kind of thing. And it doesn't hit you right away. And he's just standing there. And then he starts coming in and I'm like, get everything ready, turn the camera on. And then it finally dawned on me, I had a Montana decoy out. I'm like, oh, he's coming to the decoy. You kind of forget about it all. But that whole time from where I see the deer and we shoot it is 45 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah. It just kind of goes pretty quick. But so the deer comes in, and he gets kind of close to the decoy and then he kind of stops and he's hesitating but about that time I was drawing back and I get about halfway back and I'm like, I kind of got stuck. And in the video, you can hear me start breathing really hard. I was trying to be so quiet and draw so slow. And I'm like, oh, don't tell me I can't get this bow back, But, yeah, I get it back, make the shot. The shot looks a little high, but I go down and my arrow was full of blood. So my son, I started tracking a little bit and I called him and I said, hey, it's getting kind of late. You want to come over here? And I'm having this conversation with him and he's like, where are you at? I just go out and get on this fence line and then you'll be able to come right down to me. So he does that. And then he calls me, he goes, where are you? And through all this excitement and stuff, I forgot he was on a totally different farm. He wasn't even close to me. So through all that stuff, I end up saying, oh, don't even bother. I see the deer, it's dead. And he climbs back up in his tree and through all the craziness of what had happened, he jumps back up in the tree. A nice buck comes out and I don't know if he had taken a shot or he did something. And I think he had his sight set on 40 yards. And the deer was at 20 and he shoots and he goes clink, 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 clink. The deer, the way it was, he was like, oh, this is a chip shot, things right in front of me is gonna
shot right through his antlers.
Shoot, and it was towards him or something, and he shot right through his antlers or something. But
that's wild. Did you know that it was that caliber of a deer when you had shot him, or was it? Did he get ground growth?
I'm like, oh, he's pretty tall, but he looks pretty narrow. I didn't have a lot of time to think about it, but you kind of know. Well, I always say when we go to Kansas, if you have to think about whether it's one you should shoot or not, and this is my theory anyway, because I always say you never shoot a 160 if you shoot a 140.
Right.
So I was like, if you have to think about it, you probably shouldn't shoot it. And if you're going to try to shoot a big one, but I just thought it was kind of narrow, but you just don't know how heavy it is to you. And even to look at the picture of that thing and then you pick it up and that antlers weigh 30 some pounds. It's just so, heavy.
Well, you look back at the video and there's skin on its chest that's loose and it's like an old deer looking at it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just an old bruiser. So what happened with your deer?
That was 2 years ago. I was sitting with him. So I'm sitting in a ladder stand and he's got a full on stand up behind me. And that was my first deer with my bow. And it was with a red dot. It was at 25 yards.
Yeah, 25, 30, somewhere in there. Yeah.
And I was way too nervous and I forgot to put my clicks down. So he reached over and put my clicks down for me. And then I took a shot and it went right through its shoulder, right through the heart. And it ran towards there's a river right next to us. It goes up on its back legs and gets its antlers stuck in a tree and just falls over right over there. It was 40 yards away. It just fell over.
Yeah, that was a culmination. If you watch that video, it was a December Kansas hunt, and that can be pretty tough in December sometimes.
Right,
butts over, and it's either going on or you struggle. I think we were maybe going to leave the next day and then to have, we watched these deer it was with another buck and, for 15, 20 minutes. And I just sitting there trying to film. I think I just had my phone because I didn't want to dig all the stuff out. And I'm just seeing her, she's shaking. And I'm like, oh, it's never going to happen. And, but it was amazing. She goes, afterwards, all the stuff, she goes, Dad, once I drew back, it all went away.
Yeah.
And
Muscle memory.
That
You have
was
that
cool.
instinct.
But when she shot and then afterwards you watched
Oh,
that,
of course.
you just lost it. It was just, she was just shaking and I would rather do that hunt again any day than shoot one of these big deer. Be out there with your kids and watching, that was, you can't replace that.
So now ARD is a family-owned business, obviously, and you guys all hunt together. Like, how does that go for you? Like, is there like a little competition between the whole family throughout hunting season? Or like, who's going to shoot the biggest buck, or who's going to get what stand? Like, how does that go for you?
I don't think there's any competition who's going to shoot a bigger one, but for stands,
Sometimes it gets a little dicey. Like, I want to sit here. No, I want to sit here. But
I think I'd give those guys, they can do whatever they want, whenever.
Awesome.
But we've kind of had a tradition where I don't remember the last time we had Thanksgiving in Michigan. Once they started going to Kansas and it can be tough, that's where they want to spend their, Thanksgiving break now.
Is in Kansas.
yeah,
I don't blame you.
We have a house out there, so.
Oh, that works out perfectly.
I don't blame you there. I would rather be in Kansas too. I mean, Iowa would be the number one, but Kansas is all right, I guess.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
So how does it work with the family? Like, as far as the business, like you guys all work together and kind of get like, it's obviously a family owned thing.
Pretty much everything. Megan does a lot of social media stuff and, all of her different photography things.
website.
Everyone kind of pitches in on that end of it, trying to, organize stuff. So we have the way we kind of started everything. A friend of mine, his name's Jeff Kunkel, and he owns Dynamic Machine, and that's where we make the sites. So he's our partner in it all.
Mhm.
So he handles the side of making it because that's what they do. And then we handle the other side of,
Marketing,
the marketing and
getting everything out to
else.
customers. We pack everything up right here in this room and send everything out from right here, right in our house.
So if anyone has a question about anything, they're going to talk to one of us.
Okay.
And we don't hide anything. We're putting our phone number out on social media, and if you have bitches or raves, you can take it up with me, So,
When did it start? Like what year? How long have you guys been doing this and selling this?
I think we started in about 2018, where I finally met up with Jeff, and Jeff is a big red dot guy on handgun. So, and he's like, oh, I think we could do this. So I have some pictures of what we started with. And then we had it to the point where like, all right, we've got this down. We didn't have a site. So you had Citron was what we used before as far as and that was on the Pollington site. And we just thought, what are we going to do? Who makes a site that we don't have to go out and buy 1,000 of them, have them custom built for us. And then we kind of ran across Ultradot, and that was in 2019. So now it's like game on.
That's awesome.
It really didn't take but 6 months, and we had enough feedback. They're like, hey, we got to make the rail. And the rail really is a minute part of it, because I think the Ultradot's so tough. It's the way to go.
And that I was just going to ask, is that the way to go? That's probably
because you can, my son Matt dropped that out of his tree a couple of years ago, and he's like, oh, my bow hanger fell out of the tree and my bow crashed to the ground. I said, well, let me know what you need. He goes, no, I went down and shot it, still dead on. And so
shoots a deer like 30 minutes later with it.
Yeah. So it's just,
that works.
We took the sight, and it wasn't strong enough to do it very far, but we said, all right, when we initially went with Ultradot, and we taped it to a dummy launcher for our dog. So let's shoot this thing as far as we can and let's bolt it back on and see if it holds true. And it didn't shoot very far. So we just started throwing the sights and, letting them bounce off the ground and we bring them back. And that's the beauty of it. And a lot of times, because we're always putting the sight in the same spot on every bow in relation to the string. So it's almost, you can move the sight from one bow to the other and it's almost dead on every time. You might click your windage a tiny amount, if your grip was a little different, but.
That's awesome. I know a bunch of people that are rugged guys that probably need that over a regular sight. That's me.
Yeah, I've seen a few sites get knocked off.
I don't know how many of them sites you feel comfortable with just carrying them around by the site.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't think you definitely wreck your bow before you'll break the mount. And that was one of our key things when we were making the mount is we always went back and said, we've got to keep it simple. And we get a lot of stuff. Couldn't we make this into a slider that did this? Or couldn't we make the rings adjustable so guy could choose his which set of rings he wanted without having to buy another set of rings? And I go back on a gun. You buy low, medium, high scope mounts because they're tough and they're rigid. Very seldom do you buy a scope mount that's adjustable like that because it's just not durable enough.
That's crazy.
Simple mechanics. Sometimes that's the best way to go.
Is there something that maybe we're missing that you kind of want to get across to everybody before we kind of close things up? Or,
I would say the biggest thing is you've got to put it in your hands and see it. And it's not a peep in a pin. So you change the way you think about, because a lot of people will say, oh, can I still use a peep sight? If you want to do that, use a pin.
Gotcha.
Not the same. It'd be like saying, I want to put a red dot on my rifle, but use a peep sight.
Yeah, run it against the front post.
It just doesn't,
We've got a great blog on our website that kind of compares a peep sight and a red dot to iron sights on a gun, and it's a really good comparison, and it kind of works well, the thought process of it, for people who really aren't understanding what it is.
But I'm not the guy out here saying a red dot is for everybody, because the guy that says I've been shooting with this anchor point and shooting with this certain setup for 30 years, there's no way I could go to this because I'm so ingrained in drawback, string touching my nose, doing all these things. I'm yeah, you're going to have to retrain yourself a little bit because we're not looking to the string and we don't really care if our string touches the nose. No, we could do some things and make that work, but it's just a little bit different mindset. But we shoot tack with it. The big question we get is it as accurate as a pin sight? It's as accurate as you are.
Yes.
So it's going to be, we're more accurate than a pin sight. It's just how much practice you want. But in a hunting scenario where we're just centering the dot and shooting, I don't really care if I'm a half inch off.
Right. The only X you're counting there is it in the kill zone.
Yeah. If we're shooting 20 yards, we're shooting X's where the thickness of a line counts. Guys that are doing that with a red dot are putting a magnifier in the front of the sight because
right.
They're putting the dot sometimes in the center of that magnifier because they want to be perfect every time. And then they're starting to focus on the dot rather than the target. But that's because they want to be very deliberate. When we're hunting, I don't want to be that deliberate because it might be cold. I might be in a different position and
you may have a split second.
I have 6 seconds. I don't have all day.
Right.
And that's the big benefit, with hunting with a red dot.
If you want to target shoot, then you get a target sight. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah. I mean, we shoot tack with it, and I think we shoot as well as anyone that we shot with there, but it's probably a little bit different. And maybe if you have all day and you want to, do all those very deliberate things, then yeah, you're going to choose a different site.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I got one last question for you, and we ask everybody this question. You both can answer it honestly. Is what drives you outdoors? That's everybody's first response too. So don't worry, you're not the only one.
For me, I want to go hunting, and like right now, all I can wait is like I want to get through this blueberries, and I want September to get here, and I want to go hunting. And we grew up. I was a charter boat captain in college, and we worked in a scuba shop. That's all we did, But for me, I'd rather go sit in a tree all day and not see anything than go fishing. My son, he'd be like, I'm going fishing, but I mean, I don't want to go catch a big snapper any day of the week or a big salmon, but just being out there. And of course I want to kill stuff too, but because we grew up, being outside, and, from my grandpa hunted all over the world, a big trophy room. So it's kind of just in our blood. And I think these guys were, from the second they could pull a bow back, even when they couldn't, I was strapping a harness on them and just pulling them up in the tree. So I don't know. What about you, Meg?
Probably just to be with you, just being with family and having something to do all together that we all enjoy, even if we're not successful all the time. You don't always get a deer, you don't always get a kill, but it's fun to just be together and have something that we're all enjoying.
I think that's really important. And a lot of people, I think they miss out on that, like being and doing those things, because there's only so many sunrises. I say it all the time, and you have to spend it how you want to spend it. And with family is probably the best way.
I know last year my son was hunting, and when we hunt, I said, don't sit too late, because you always end up shooting a deer that's too small or smaller than you wanted to shoot. Not that I'm like out here preaching, you got to shoot a big one. So he shot one, and it was small. I was like, I'm like, he goes, but I nailed it 45 yards, home run this thing. And I'm like, then you got to be happy with that and the whole experience around that hunt, or else you're going to hate every minute of being out there, because that's not the first time you're going to do that or the last time. So
100%.
Absolutely.
Well, before we guys cut you off real quick, where can everybody find you?
You can go to adjustablereddot.com, or,
We're Adjustable Red Dot on Facebook, Adjustable Red Dot on YouTube and Instagram, everything. It's just Adjustable Red Dot.
my phone number's on there. Call me and anytime, and I'll fill you in on everything I can.
Outstanding. Well, we appreciate you guys being on. It's been really enlightening and eye-opening to get the details on this. And I think there's a lot of people this will really fit in the community well with. So we just want to thank you guys for sharing that and getting the word out. We'll keep pushing and make sure everybody takes a look at it as well. And until then, guys, we just want to thank you for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.